Alvin Cullum York was born on December 13, 1887, in the rural hills of Pall, Tennessee. He was one of 11 children born to a poor farming family. His father, a veteran of the Civil War, died when Alvin was just a teenager, leaving the family in difficult financial circumstances. This loss marked Alvin's early life with a sense of responsibility as he helped his mother care for his siblings. Despite the hardships, York's childhood was steeped in the traditions of the Appalachian region, where hunting, farming, and religion played central roles in the community. As a young man, Alvin was known for his strong work ethic, as well as his somewhat rebellious streak. He was a skilled hunter and fisherman, and he also had a reputation for getting into occasional fights. His early years were marked by a struggle between his desire for a rough-and-tumble life and his deep Christian convictions. Alvin was raised in the Church of Christ, and his faith ultimately became a key guiding force in his life. Conversion to pacifism. York's path to becoming a soldier in World War I was not direct. Initially, Alvin York was opposed to violence and war because of his strong Christian beliefs. He had read the Bible thoroughly, and its teachings, particularly the commandment, "Thou shalt not kill," made him feel that participating in a war was morally wrong. This pacifist view was a major conflict for him when the United States entered World War I in 1917. In 1917, the US government implemented the Selective Service Act, which required all able-bodied men to register for the draft. Alvin York, who had never been interested in military service, found himself in a difficult position. He was drafted into the army in 1917, but his initial response was to seek an exemption based on his pacifist beliefs. He applied for conscientious objector status, citing his religious convictions. After much reflection, Alvin York had a spiritual epiphany that changed his perspective on war. He came to believe that while war itself was destructive, there were occasions when it was necessary to fight in defense of righteousness. He later said that his personal understanding of the Bible led him to conclude that the act of war could be justified in some circumstances. His newfound belief in the righteous cause of war did not diminish his commitment to peace, but it allowed him to reconcile his faith with the need to serve his country. Military service and heroism in World War I, Alvin York was assigned to the 328th Infantry Regiment, 80th Airborne Division, which was part of the American Expeditionary Force, AEF, in France. He entered the conflict in 1918, just as the war was reaching its climax. His company was part of a large offensive during the Meuse-Argonne campaign, one of the largest and deadliest battles of the war. The pivotal moment that defined Alvin York's heroism took place on October 8, 1918. York's unit had been assigned to take a German machine gun position. As they approached the enemy lines, they were ambushed. During the fight, many men in York's company were killed or wounded, and York's unit found themselves pinned down by intense German machine gun fire. Despite the chaos and danger, York demonstrated exceptional leadership and tactical intelligence. According to his own account, Alvin York single-handedly took control of the situation. He charged the German machine gun positions, killing or capturing approximately 20 enemy soldiers along the way. In the process, York became the focus of the enemy's fire. As the story goes, he then organized a small group of American soldiers to help him subdue the German resistance. With exceptional marksmanship, York killed several German soldiers, eventually capturing 132 prisoners. His actions during this moment were not only remarkable for their bravery, but also for their strategic impact. York's actions helped his unit break through the German lines and advance toward victory. His conduct during the battle earned him the Medal of Honor, which was awarded to him by President Woodrow Wilson in 1919, the aftermath of war and fame. After the war, Alvin York was celebrated as a national hero. His extraordinary actions in the Meuse-Argonne offensive had brought him fame and admiration from all corners of the United States. He was awarded numerous honors, including the Distinguished Service Cross and the Croix de Guerre, a French military decoration. Despite his newfound fame, York was not one to seek the limelight. He was a humble man who preferred the quiet life of a farmer. He returned to Tennessee after the war and tried to resume his life as a civilian. However, his heroic deeds had already made him a symbol of American valor, and his story quickly spread across the country. He embarked on a speaking tour representing the United States and the ideals of sacrifice and courage in the face of adversity. Alvin York, however, did not enjoy this fame. He was deeply uncomfortable with being the center of attention and struggled with the idea of having his actions glorified. His faith, which had initially led him to pacifism, guided his sense of humility, and he sought to avoid the distractions that came with celebrity. In 1921, Alvin York married Gracie Williams, and they settled in a modest home in Pall, Tennessee. They had a large family, and York returned to farming, but he continued to be involved in his community. In the 1920s and 1930s, he also worked to improve education and infrastructure in his area. Through his efforts, he helped to bring better schools and roads to the impoverished region of rural Tennessee. Later years and legacy. Alvin York's later years were marked by challenges. He faced financial difficulties despite the fame he had achieved. In the 1920s, he attempted to start a mining operation, but it failed, and he struggled to provide for his family. Nonetheless, he remained active in his community and did his best to serve his fellow citizens. York's story reached an even larger audience when the 1941 Hollywood film Sergeant York was released, starring Gary Cooper as Alvin York. The film was a box office success and helped to cement York's status as one of America's greatest war heroes. York, who had initially been reluctant to embrace the fame that came with his heroic actions, was portrayed as a humble and devout man who did what he believed was right. The film depicted his internal struggle with the violence of war and his ultimate decision to fight in the cause of righteousness. Despite his fame, Alvin York did not live a life of luxury. He continued to work on behalf of his community, advocating for the veterans of World War I and fighting for the improvement of the lives of the people in his hometown. He became an advocate for the education of rural children and supported various social causes. Alvin York passed away on September 2, 1964, at the age of 76. His death marked the end of an era for many Americans who had viewed him as a symbol of bravery, humility, and moral integrity. Today, the Sergeant York State Historic Park in Pall, Tennessee, commemorates his life and his legacy, ensuring that future generations can learn from his example. Alvin York's life story is one of incredible heroism, personal transformation, and humility. His courage during World War I made him one of the most celebrated soldiers in American history, yet he never sought the fame that came with his actions. Instead, York remained true to his roots, living a simple life grounded in faith and community. His legacy is not just that of a war hero, but also as a man who wrestled with his beliefs and emerged from that struggle with a deep sense of duty, honor, and integrity. York's actions in World War I, especially during the Meuse-Argonne offensive, represent the extraordinary potential for individual courage to impact the course of history. His story serves as a reminder that greatness is not always born of ambition or fame, but often through quiet acts of valor, selflessness, and dedication to a cause greater than oneself. The life of Alvin York continues to inspire individuals and serves as a testament to the power of belief, perseverance, and personal growth. His journey from a young, uneducated farm boy to one of the most decorated soldiers in American history reminds us that heroism often arises from the most humble of beginnings. The legacy of Sergeant Alvin York endures, and his story remains a powerful chapter in the narrative of America's military history,